Hi, I'm Jen, and welcome to Therapist Sanctuary, where therapists gather just to be in the company of each other and to hear that you're not alone. All the things you think and worry about and stress about and get Sunday night anxiety and insomnia from, you are not alone. And I just want there to be a place where it's safe enough to talk about it openly and to just know how powerful it is when you show up from authenticity and your true being for that person in front of you. And you just listen. Stop trying to do to and just be with. It's so much easier. Trust me, you're going to enjoy your job a lot more. And I'm here to do that with you. So let's do it, shall we? Hi, Cassie.
Hi.
Welcome to Therapist Sanctuary. This is a podcast about therapists, for therapists, by therapists, to talk about what the work is like.
Well,
And
great.
yeah, and
Yeah.
actually what I'm curious about is sort of the discussion about how the work has affected you as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the human side of things. There's
Sure.
lots out there about different kinds of therapy, but I couldn't find much about what it's like being a therapist,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I could talk about all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think I have those kind of conversations with other people that are doing the work or that does this as a profession as well. Kind of like how this job, it kind of forms who you are as a person.
Right?
Yeah, it really does. I
Yeah.
find that I like to be a therapist from learning from other people before me that kind of not just talks the talk, but walks the walk too. So the things that I want to bring to clients, I want to make sure that I would actually use those kind of strategies or that I have used those strategies and not just kind of read from a manual about what things that they can do in theory.
Love
So
it.
yeah,
Like
and
you want to have learned it from the inside out, so to speak.
yeah, so I can give people like an honest kind of appraisal of certain things that they could maybe apply to their life. I know that like when I was in my training and then even in some interviews with other prospective job places, the kind of self-disclosure to clients is really frowned upon.
I know. Why is that?
I don't know because I find that that's the best thing for a client to hear is when you say, listen, I've done this or that's happened to me and this is how I've handled it and this is how this has been helpful for me. People really get like a real human, oh, okay, yeah, okay, maybe I can do it rather than this hierarchy, this imbalance of power that I think happens easily in these types of professions
Hmm.
where we're the expert and we're telling people. I think that's why I liked counseling so much and that's why I was drawn to it because it was supposed to be more like unilateral, like you're on the same page with people rather than being an expert and then espousing your wisdom towards them. I don't know. That always, yeah.
Like, there's nothing really more annoying than going to someone in a vulnerable state, whoever
Hmm.
it is,
Hmm.
and you're met with sort of this ideal way that you could solve your problems
Hmm.
to not have problems like they don't.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I don't like the idea of pretending like I don't have problems. Like no matter how much I work in this field, I have my moments as a human where I'm just
I
like,
think I have more moments now as a human. I
you
think
know,
I'm
I
more
wonder if you
screwed
just
up now than I've ever been.
or it's just you're just more self-aware and I think the self-awareness there's like it's not always a
Right.
gift to be self-aware. It's kind of a
That is
burden
so
sometimes.
true. Yeah, like one of the downsides of self-awareness is you realize what an asshole you actually can be.
Yeah, no, seriously, I think about
Yeah.
how much I'm screwing up my kid, how much I interfere in my relationship and relationships just like with my partner, with other people in my life. How I love listening to people how they're like they show up in certain places and I kind of go, oh god, no, I could never do that, like still.
Oh, you're in the right place,
Yeah,
Cassie.
yeah.
We're here together, speaking my language.
Yeah, yeah.
So, the reason I called it Therapist Sanctuary is the definition of the word sanctuary appeals to me, which is a place of protection, a place, I have it written down here, a place of refuge or safety or protection.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to start by asking you, like, what do you think you need refuge and protection from in doing the work of a therapist?
Um, I think, what do I need protection from? Well, probably bigger systems of like therapy or mental health. I think I need to kind of, when I'm in the workplace, kind of weigh and consider what like the mandate for services are at places and what actually people need or what I've seen. Um, I think that when we are looking at evidence-based stuff, that's great, but there's a lot of anecdotal things that I see in my practice. So sometimes I feel like that's a big thing of protection. Like I need to say to whatever power that be that I'm working with, I go, yep, that's what I'm doing. And then I go actually try to meet the client where they're at and try to find what they need. And so sometimes those two things don't always align.
More
Is
than
that,
sometimes.
yeah, probably more like a
So,
lot of
like
times.
being protected, it's so ironic because I would not have known this coming into the field that I would
Mhm.
need to protect myself from the very systems that I work in
Yeah,
and
yeah,
protect my clients,
yes, yes.
especially the
And,
public sort of, you're talking more public areas of practice that
right.
are, like free counseling for people or whatever, but they're funded with certain criteria, like
Yeah.
you can
Hmm.
only do this kind of work with these kind of people.
Yeah, yeah. Which, and I appreciate those mandates. I understand why they're there.
Hmm.
I actually find sometimes those mandates, are protective actually. So,
Right.
where I was working at one place where we had to limit the amount of sessions people would get when in the free place, that was good. That was good for me. If you were working with, maybe a more challenging client, it's nice to have those mandates to kind of fall back on. So it's a double-edged sword. Like sometimes
Right.
it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. Um, but even more so for protection for myself, I need to just be alone sometimes. Being alone helps me uh, renew myself. So I really do cherish time alone for myself, like just being away from people. And once I get that, then I'm able to recharge like my empathy and compassion for people too. So I find
Hmm.
just being solitary very protective too, and not in like a weird isolation type way. Like I still want to be with people, and
Yeah.
but I think that's another thing. Like when you're in this kind of job where you're talking to people all day and you're really kind of sitting with really heavy feelings and that kind of, I mean, it's heavy work. That the way that I kind of center myself again is just to kind of be by myself and to think about things. I get so much more compassionate and
Hmm.
caring when I get to just be like by myself for good, sometimes like 24 hours, just having space to myself. It's really important. Hmm.
I agree.
Hmm.
Yeah, because you're renewing from the stories, the talking, like we literally, most or all of us love to hear people's stories, and we're literally hanging on every word someone says
Hmm.
for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, right.
And there's a toll on a
Hmm.
person. Like, what do you think the toll on you has been?
Well, I think sometimes the toll might be my connection in my personal world, like then my family, my friends. When you kind of are like, if you use the metaphor of being a vessel and you're kind of full by the time you get home, then it's kind of that hard to balance the personal world where I'm available and ready to have talks and with my friends, with my family, and sometimes they're more heavier talks, and sometimes I don't want to engage in them because I just listen to people all day, and I'm like,
I'm
look,
I'm cringily remembering my daughter at one point saying to me something like, "Yeah, people think it'd be so great to have your mom be a therapist," until I told them that, yeah, she's not like that at home at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
It's
and
like,
and I might have heard that from my
oh,
partner sometimes too, where we're in a nice good fight, and he'll be like, "You're a therapist." Yeah,
Not right
yeah,
now, I'm
yeah.
not.
That's because I actually got that from you, or I'm like, I'm not your therapist, so use
Exactly.
yeah.
That, and maybe that's part of the toll
Mm.
is it like that expectation at times from people that you're always in that mode of being the great listener and the
Yeah,
endlessly compassionate
and it might not even be other people's expectation. It might be even my expectation that when I
right.
go into certain circles, like especially when they're newer people, and then I get introduced, well, this is Cassie. Oh, and what does she do for work? She's a therapist. And then I feel like I'm have to rise to the occasion. And I put on this like bit of a phony mask, I think, when I'm out with people.
I love that you're admitting that. Like you set yourself up in a chair with a cigar and the little
Yeah,
round
yeah.
glasses at the party.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to espouse all this wisdom to everybody in the room, and they're going to think that I'm very, very evolved.
Do you bring your clipboard with you?
I should
Write
next
some
time when I'm out.
notes?
Yeah, yeah.
We don't even do that probably in real sessions, though.
No, I'm not really too much in there.
No, I didn't think that about you. I have known you enough to know that's not your
uh,
thing.
yeah, not really. But I don't know if I've told you this, I have recently changed jobs though. So I'm not with Summit any longer.
Okay,
So
so
maybe
what kind
I
of work
am
are you
carrying a
doing?
clipboard. I am carrying a clipboard a bit more right now.
Are you?
Yeah, because I actually made the leap over to interior health. I am working there
Oh
in
my
the
goodness.
mental health and substance use in their access. So more or less intake, an intake coordinator position.
Okay.
So yes, there is a
Have you
clipboard.
started?
I did. I started August 12th, so I've been doing it for about a month now.
You've worked in some different places.
I have definitely have some variety under my belt, and
You
it's
do.
even before even just the counseling world. I did some really interesting jobs in my younger years in my
Okay, tell
20s.
me one. I want to know what comes to mind.
The most interesting job was working at Hull Child and Family Services, uh,
Oh, like
at
a child group home setting.
like a residential group home. Yeah, for kids that had generally some sort of behavioral issue, but also a brain injury. So they were very challenging to keep at home for the most parts.
Oh, okay.
And so then I would work there as a support member of the team, and you'd get assigned a kid for the day. Sometimes you'd get two, and
Right.
yeah, and they were very. It was a hard job. I burnt out pretty quickly there. I think I was only there for about 18 months because it was a lot of hands on. You had to do like restraints for children that
Oh.
were at risk of hurting themselves and others.
Hmm.
So it was an intense job, that's for sure.
Do you think looking back with who you know yourself to be now, do you think, okay, yeah, Cassie doing restraining all day long is not in alignment with your
No, yeah. Yeah. So, they were really big into like behavioral type stuff. So behavioral motivation, that kind of thing. And you know that those shows like Super Nanny,
yeah.
that's how you talked to these kids, and it was such a weird robotic way of interacting with children.
Hmm.
Like your instruction is to go brush your teeth, and you have 5 minutes to do it. Oh, you didn't do it within the instructed time, so you're going to have demerits on your.
Consequence. Yeah.
Yeah, they use the token economy system there. So
Hmm.
where I've really come is like completely on the other end of the spectrum of more like the emotion focused type therapy where you would never talk to kids like that now.
Right.
Yeah. And again, like I understand why those things came to be. They were effective in some means, but I don't know. I think if you did like longitudinal studies of these kids and how they kind of are in their adulthood, I mean, you start to wonder how much damage was really done
Yeah.
because it was very very clinical talk and very robotic and very
And that's where they lived.
and that's where they live. These poor kids, yeah,
Like yeah, the whole, don't even get me started on the whole behavioral paradigm. Like I think it was just the thing of the time that we thought helped kids grow and develop and be,
yeah,
there would be words used like be socialized and be
hmm
appropriate and be
hmm
good members of society. Like those
hmm
were kind of the flavors of the description.
yeah,
And yeah, it was so inhumane at times.
yeah. There was not a lot of care involved in it.
Right.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
that was an interesting job.
Ooh, yeah. Have you ever had a job that was like the furthest thing from counseling? What's the furthest thing from counseling you ever did?
Oh, well, that would probably be one of them up there because when you think about how counseling
Right.
and how you have rapport and all that kind of thing. I generally did choose jobs that were in the human service field. So, not necessarily that I had counseling in mind, because when I worked as a family support worker, I thought there's no way I could be a counselor. Like, I was on a team with other counselors and listening to how they would interact with clients and what they were doing. And I'm like, oh, no, I could never do that. It seemed I don't know what it was. It just seemed out of my grasp or out of my reach at that time. I liked being able to default to, I'm not responsible for these people. I guess that's what it was. I felt like a really
Heavy
responsible,
responsibility.
yeah, to try to quote unquote make people better. And
Oh,
once I got more
that curse.
into,
The curse of making people better. It's the last
so
thing we can do.
and now I find that I'm in like working before at Summit and now even working at Interior Health. They don't have that kind of. They don't. We know that we can't make people better. At least the
Right.
people that are on my team, we can try to alleviate some things. We can support people, but really, it's not me doing the heavy lifting. It's always has been the client, and
Right.
it's not my responsibility. And once I kind of really embraced that idea, the work got a lot easier for me.
And
Like
I
a
bet
lot,
your burnout level went way down.
way down. Like I was just kind of, I'll show up, you'll show up, and we'll kind of just meet where you're at. And
Yeah.
I just kind of was able to give that. I really love the tenet of person-centered therapy of unconditional positive regard.
Right.
I come by it naturally. I can listen to anybody's kind of story and kind of no matter what, I'll understand maybe why you did that. I'm not going to say it
Hmm.
was good that you threw a
Right.
brick through your partner's glass or something like that or
Yeah.
windshield, but I'm gonna
But
but
maybe it was good.
yeah, but
Maybe
you
it was
felt better.
exactly what was needed.
But I know I
So,
could, yeah.
what do you think your spouse or your family think you do for a living?
I think my spouse does believe that I tell people what to do because that's
Because you're
kind of
always telling him what to do.
probably it's probably a
Hey,
little bit
leave
of
work at
that.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, like so, but or like when we are in conflict, I hear that. Oh, and you're a counselor. Would you tell your clients to do that? I do think that he thinks that I'm doing like a lot of hand over hand for people, where I'm teaching them how to like and like that's my expectation is making people better, and I really just. No,
Mm.
I don't want that. I don't want that at all. I don't want to be that responsible for people, really.
No, and we can't be.
Well,
I
that's I
mean,
can be responsible for me, and that's about
right.
all I want to be responsible for, right? So,
Exactly.
a little bit towards your kids, right? Especially when they're still young, you're showing up and trying to guide them, but still, even that, he's his own person, so I'm really not even really responsible for him.
Right.
And
I get it.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
with you on it. I'm
Mhm.
right with you.
Mhm.
So your husband thinks you're at work just telling people what to do all day and solving all their problems for them.
Yeah, and then why can't I come home and figure it all out for ourselves? I guess, right? So
Oh,
that
right.
expectation.
And
Right.
do you ever feel, I mean, I have, where being a therapist puts this, I put this pressure on myself that I shouldn't have problems anymore. I should know what to do or I shouldn't struggle or, I mean, it's total bullshit,
Yeah.
but it creeps in.
I
It
have those
really
thoughts
does.
sometimes when I'm just like experiencing a normal down period in mood where and because
Right.
I will say to clients like happiness is not our default setting, but then there's a little part of me that says but it should be yours and I'm just kind of really trying to push back against that and really embrace the times where I'm not feeling good and being like, oh, right, because that's what humans experience different emotions every day.
Hmm. It's
It's
part of
ever
being
changing,
alive.
it's part of being alive. So
Yeah.
when I'm in a more stable, not stable, but more grounded place, I can kind of
Hmm.
go, oh, that was okay that I had a bad week. But when you're in it, I think just those
Ugh,
more immature parts show up for yourself and that's the part that really beats me up. It's kind of like this inner child being
boy.
like you were supposed to have it figured out by now, Cassie, you're 43.
Right.
why are you still struggling?
Yeah.
um and just to kind of sink into the struggle sometimes I really want to resist
It's
it.
human.
It's so human, yeah.
It's so human.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's what your partner might think of what you do. What did you think counseling would be like when you were in school and did it turn out to be what you thought it would be or how different is it?
Well, I think I had a lot of people that I looked up to before I went into counseling, so I got to see kind of what they were doing. So I think I had a pretty realistic idea of what counseling was. But then I went to school, and a lot of my professors, well, they are that doctorate level uh,
Academics.
academics. Most of them were American, so it was a bit of a different system.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of maybe kind of skewed my ideas or my ideals even. And I was like, oh God. It was one of those things where I just kind of thought with counseling, the more I know, the less I know kind of thing, where I'm just kind of like,
Totally.
yeah,
And
yeah.
this, and I think in the academic world of where we're all trained,
Hmm.
there's this sort of different paradigm where you're supposed to be the expert and you're supposed to know and be this more robotic, less humanistic person.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it, yeah, you're right. Like it almost kind of wrecks you a little for the field. And then you spend the rest of your career debunking all that.
Right. So like when I first started off as a counselor and working with people, like I think about it because like I'm in a new job right now and I'm trying to get situated and sorted. So I take a lot of comfort for this, that I almost feel bad for the clients that I first saw because I really didn't know what I was
Oh, I
doing.
definitely feel bad for the clients I saw early on. I'll cross the street if I see them coming. Like,
Yeah,
sorry, I
yeah,
was
yeah,
new.
yeah. I didn't know what I was talking about. But I saw Dr. Gordon Neufeld years ago come to Calgary, or no, it was in Cranbrook, where
Hmm.
he was talking about that in himself when he first started off as a child developmental psychologist, and him saying that he had to really fake it till he made it, kind of thing, because
Yeah,
you had to kind of impart to people that I know what I'm talking about because that gives them a sense
right.
of relief and a sense of comfort. But yeah, now that I look back on just the limited knowledge and experience that I had, I'm kind of like, oh my God,
I
I was
know.
working with people. Holy.
Oh, I know. I can actually right now in this moment think of things that I said to people really believing it.
Hmm.
And now I would be horrified if I heard that coming out of my mouth.
Right?
I
Yeah.
remember saying to this guy once who was devastated over a breakup. This was
Hmm.
like 25 years ago.
Hmm.
I'm brand new. He's sobbing. I thought my job was to make people stop being upset. Like I
Yeah.
really thought at some level that's what counselors are supposed, what
Hmm.
therapists are
Hmm.
supposed to make. So I remember saying to him, these are just feelings, and feelings really don't mean much. You don't have to pay attention to them.
It's just a feeling.
Oh my God.
Maybe
And
just
now
stop
I've done a
yourself.
complete 180 and I'm like, your feelings are the truth about you. Like there is
Hmm.
nothing more real than how you feel.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
there's, the difference between, yeah, 25 years. Oh God. But
That pull to make people feel better. I don't know if that'll ever go away for me. Like I just want
mhm,
to make people feel better, and so I've gotten more comfortable with like kind of just naming that in a session with somebody if they're
yeah.
really struggling, and I can feel us both kind of having that tense moment, and I will say like, I really wish, there's a part of me that wants to fix this for you, but I know that I can't, and I know that we just both have to sit here, and I'm willing to sit here with you and kind of
Mm,
just acknowledge those things with people, and I find those are the real moments, and
yeah.
people really do appreciate that.
And so
Well,
where did
some
that
of them.
come from in you? Do you think the need to make people feel better?
Oh, that's like going to be the question, and I always kind of will sit with is where does that come from? That innate. I know. Well, you're an Enneagrammer, so I am an Enneagram
Hmm.
type 2, as you know, and
Right.
there's just this pull to want to be that indispensable helper for somebody. And I think when I'm not able to, because sometimes you'll leave a session and go, geez, I don't know if that made them feel much better, and to realize that's okay. Like, I'm not going to be able to help, quote unquote, fix it,
Right.
because sometimes it's just life. There is no fixing of those problems. I think once I kind of started voicing that with clients that, yeah, there's going to be shitty times in your life. It just is
Hmm.
that way. And we can't, like,
Change
dress it
that.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
So,
And
was there anything like in childhood or in your past that set you up to be an Enneagram type 2 where you
oh, yeah, probably.
is that code for I'm not going there?
Well, like, I guess like I always do try to think about that. Probably had more of that distant father, and I think I did read something about that with twos and
Mm-hmm.
having an ambivalent father figure. That was just kind of them. Yeah, I wish I did. I saved it at some point. It was on my wall from like an Enneagram quote of the day
Yeah.
about that ambivalency from the father figure will lead a two into feeling like they have to show up more to help be helped, so they get noticed. And I'm sure it has something to do with that I get some sort of payout by being
At some point, you figured out in childhood that the way for you to be loved
mhm,
was to give and help and fix and solve
right.
for other
Yeah,
people.
and like even as you say that, there's a part of me that goes, "Well, yeah, duh. Isn't that how everybody gets loved?" And it's like, "Oh, right." Like, yeah, I know.
Right? You know what
Yeah.
was a light bulb moment for me with the
Mhm,
Enneagram, which is a personality tool, which I think undersells it, that description. But anyway, lack
mhm,
of a better word, that's what we'll
mhm,
call it. Is when I read my type, I'm a type 8,
mhm,
I had that reaction like, yeah, so like
mhm.
that's the way the world is,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
you have to be strong and you have to be forceful and you have to look
yeah,
after yourself because no
yeah.
one's coming along to help you,
That's
all of
right.
that.
Yeah,
It wasn't until I read the other numbered descriptions that I went, what?
yeah.
Like some people are concerned about completely different things and
I
they
hear
don't
you.
care if they're strong and weird.
I know that
It
was
was
actually
mind
that I would
blowing.
have to say that was my light bulb moment too, was when I was first introduced to the Enneagram and just seeing the different types. And that's how I kind of will sell it to clients too,
Hmm.
that this is the way of being. We get kind of egocentric and we think that this is the way to be, and we just assume that everybody else is doing it wrong. Well, the Enneagram gives you an opportunity to see there's multiple ways of being and existing,
Yeah.
and it's so illuminating, and I think it'll help you connect better with other people because you'll finally figure out, oh, they're just not a type 2, or they're not a type 7, or they're not a type, like whatever their type is,
Right. It's
and
not their
that
thing.
it's just not their thing, and that their thing is they're probably already doing it really well, like, or or they have moments of being really really just true authentic versions of themselves,
Yeah.
and that's not bad. Like it's not
No.
your way, but it's not your way's not the right way. Yeah,
Or
always.
the only way.
Or the
Hmm.
only way. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
have to say that that's my first, maybe that was my first introduction into the idea of therapy, was through the Enneagram, just how it was so
It's so powerful
so powerful. I agree.
and so compassionate. Like it
Hmm.
kind of lets you see your own shit
Hmm.
without feeling too bad about it.
Right. Yeah. I agree that I can kind of see myself in my moments of that disintegration point and go, well, yeah, that's going to happen sometimes. The Enneagram doesn't say that you're going to go to that highest level of health and then just stay there. It really
No.
kind of lets you know that no, you're going to go back and forth and back and forth, and there's wake up calls that when you are kind of stuck in those lower levels, that you can kind of go to yourself, oh wait a minute, this is not who I am authentically. This is me in a stressful place. Something might have to give. I might have to do something differently. So yeah, I think that the Enneagram gives a lot of individual power back to people.
That's a good way to put it. I
Hmm.
like that. That is
Hmm.
so true.
Hmm.
So, what would you say surprises surprises you the most about this work?
Um, when I'm in like doing the work, and I'm like, because I'm thinking about how if you'd asked me this 6 months ago, I'd have a different perspective. But now that I'm at a new job, and I need to kind of get my bearings there and kind of get myself kind of more comfortable. But once I get into that place, I find it it's incredibly easy for me to do. Not like maybe I should say it's more simplistic. It's more simple. Not always easy, but it's not as always as hard as my brain will say it should be, right? And that there's
Yes.
this kind of you just really need to show up for people, and I have kind of gravitated towards modalities that are more relational, like they really just focus on human interactions and why that's so important to people.
Mm.
And then then it just makes more sense, and I find that there's an ease to just showing up with clients. And I used to get really nervous meeting a new client, like it used to just almost make me come unraveled because you don't know who's coming in the door.
Right.
And I found that really started to dissipate, especially when I started working with men as well, because I hadn't worked with men for a long time. At Summit, it's only women clients there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I finally started to open the door to seeing men, I was just struck by how, oh, right, they're, they're, they're people too.
They're just people. And mostly they're coming into the therapy room as a little boy,
I know. And
right?
really, I find working with men is probably the easiest population to work with,
Mm-hmm.
because really it's a sad testament to our society. They don't have a lot of kindness and compassion in their life sometimes. And
Right.
if you just offer that, they feel so much better so quickly. It doesn't necessarily fix their problems, but then it just
Right.
like the ease happens again, and then you can actually get to some meaningful work
Yeah.
with male
I know
clients.
exactly what you mean
Hmm.
by let it be simple. Like that healing actually, yeah, the longer in I am into this work, the more I realize healing is natural and it's
Hmm.
simple. And
Hmm.
actually, people kind of know what brings them healing and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's not this sort of super complex calculus problem that only
Right.
we know the solution to as therapists.
Yeah.
It's quite basic when you care and you offer compassion and authenticity and
Yeah.
presence and you really do want the best for them.
Hmm.
It starts just happening.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the best tools I learned was from emotion focused family therapy around just emotionally validating people and just
Yeah.
saying, no wonder you feel that way. Really. They tell you how they're feeling. They kind of give a description of the event that happens. It might not be the way that I'd show up in that situation, but I'm getting to know this person, and no wonder that's how you experienced it. No wonder that's the feeling that you're having. And I think once people hear that, that shame that they might have been experiencing
Yeah.
just falls
Lift.
away, and they go, "Oh, I'm allowed to feel like that." And you're like, "You're allowed
Yeah.
to feel
Yes. Oh,
whatever."
it's so good.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, I've been playing this little game with people.
All right.
It's word association.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a word. You give me the first word that comes to your head.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Pain,
Normal.
suffering.
Expect it. I know that's not one word, but
That's okay. Family,
um, comfort.
grief,
Love.
bully,
Um, Inner critic.
whew, compassion,
Natural.
hope.
Always.
Oh, I love that. Let's end on that.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm just so glad you came and we figured out our technical problems
Yes,
and got to have a little chat.
I liked it. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. And I hope this goes well for you. I bet you're going to have lots of interesting conversations, and I can't wait to hear them.
Yay.
Yay.
Thanks, Cassie. Talk to
Yeah.
you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye. Okay. I'm